So let's move on to, this is a transaction trend dashboard, and this is another one that comes standard with our transaction connector, which you guys already have. And so this is one that's actually been getting a lot of use with our customers since COVID hit, because a lot of major questions you start asking is, well, did our shares go up? Did our deposits go down or up? Have our withdrawals gone up, down or up? Has our ATM cash withdrawals gone down or up? Those are all things you start asking about. And so this is a standard dashboard that we deployed to kind of help. It wasn't built for that specifically, but it ended up helping a lot of our customers with doing that. And they had a dashboard ready the day it hit, and they could start tracking it right away. Now, there's a lot going on with this dashboard, but it's a very, very high-level trend. This is, unfortunately, looking at test data, so it's not super deep or long. So in a real environment, hopefully you see multiple years of data, so you'd see a little more clarity here. But you have a lot of control of this. You can set the post date. You can say, okay, I don't want to look at split it by anything. I just want to look at total transactional count, or I want to look at the balance change, or I want to split it by the action code, or I want to take adjustments and new out. I don't want to do any back office. You can have a lot of control over this, and it's all a dashboard that's already deployed today. And for a lot of our customers, they saw a lot of stuff going around, especially around when the stimulus check went out. You saw a huge jump in their deposits. And then, as you would expect, there was usually a huge jump in their withdrawals right after that stimulus check. But because they had this already, they could quickly see that, and they could kind of start to have conversations around it in real time in their meetings and not have to go back to their IT group and go, gee, could you go build this report and hope you get something back 2 weeks from now? They could answer a lot of those questions in the moment they're happening rather than having to wait to answer those questions. So I know there's a lot going on this left-hand side and whatnot. Are there any questions about this particular tab?
No, and you're right, they're already asking for this kind of stuff, so it would be easy if we could just pull this up like that. It would be cool.
Yeah, we had a couple of customers who deployed really with this dashboard kind of right before this hit, and they both this dashboard has seen a lot of use over the last 6 weeks, just because it was so timely for this situation that they could answer those questions right away. They didn't have to wait. They could, and from that, and I'll show you here in just a second, they could even look at spikes and say, okay, well, let's go take a look at that spike, and you can drill into the detailed records. So you're not stuck just looking at the aggregate records up here. You could see anomalies and drill into it and say, okay, well, go sort by the balance change. Go show me the largest one. Well, geez, there was a check that got received for $6.6 million. Maybe we should follow up on that. So this dashboard didn't limit them to just looking at extremely high level and being kind of stuck at these very, very high level. There's some additional tabs here, which I won't necessarily delve into too much detail, but it splits it out by shares and withdrawals, by specific channel types, and you can click on these. And this is going to take a little bit longer to load just because I'm a couple hundred miles away from where this data is stored. I'm working from home just like everybody else. You can do it by the channel name, or by the transaction class, or by the transaction type. There's just lots and lots and lots of different ways you can break this down, and it's all real time, and it's all at your fingertips, and you don't have to burden your IT group all the time for these things. And this drill down capability is something that a lot of the other BI tools don't do. So really this is kind of two queries that's happening in relationship to each other. And so instead of, because this would, if you were returning 2 years worth of transactional records, you're going to make your IT group really, really cranky, bringing back 100, 150 million records. They're going to get really mad at you every time you do that. By doing it this way, you can see here I've got 647 rows is what it's taking to display 5 months worth of transactional records at the top. But when I click on something, I can actually get 941 rows back because I'm only bringing back those detailed transactional records that I want. And that's something that's fairly unique to Spotfire. A lot of the other BI tools don't really give you a way to move dynamically between very aggregated sorts of visualizations and dynamically go grab the detailed transactional records that are sitting behind it. So let's look at another one. This is a delinquency dashboard, and I apologize, I have this pointed at test data. I don't have a good example that I can show you too much data of, but obviously this is very, very relevant right now. So this is looking at the amount past due, and you can break it down by days delinquent category. Normally this would be populated with different loan categories and loan types. Like I said, I apologize, this is looking at kind of a test data environment, which is very, very limited. You can break it down by what's the delinquent category, or what's in bankrupt, or what's in a workout. You can look at the amount past due, what's the current balance, so you get a better chance of what's at risk, the total account, and so on and so forth. And you do that on the loan side and on the share side, and do, say, percent of the ODP usage. You can break it down by share category 1, and you can do a bunch of filtering as well. This is another dashboard that's seen quite a bit of use over the last month and a half or so that they didn't have to go create custom reports right away. They kind of already had something that they could kind of go back and reference to, and at least get high-level trends and see where things are moving without having to go create a bunch of custom reports. So similar to the transaction trend, just being more focused on some of the delinquency-related items.
We'd really like to be able to look at our area employers and the, well, two different things. We'd like to be able to look at our members' employers, and the only place we have that is in loan records. And I shouldn't say the only place, the most accurate place we would have that would be in our loan records. And then to kind of see if the behavior for certain employer members that are with certain employers is changing. And then also be able to look at the direct deposit ACHs that we get for payroll for those companies and see if that's going down or changing.
Sure.
I don't know if you have anything like that, or if anybody else has asked you about anything like that.
Yeah, so actually some of the other things we've done onto this dashboard is to go drill into where are the deposits coming from and sorting by largest to smallest, and showing you where are they coming from in terms of, is it coming from checks, is it coming from specific employers. You'll see, as you notice in that marketing dashboard, we actually do have a key there that says direct deposit. So we already set a flag at the member level. It says, do they receive direct deposit? But you can drill into the transactional records and say, show me by deposit by where it's sourced, and see who are your area employers, and then break it down by which ones are going up or which ones are going down. That's, yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't take, it's not a huge amount of work to go extend this transaction trend dashboard to show that kind of information.
Love it.
So I'll take that analysis one step further, and I'll leave it up to you if you want to go there. Because one of the things you say, okay, well, if the overall number may not be going, you can look at the overall number up or down. But one of the things that as you start to dig into it, you say, okay, well, there's lots of people who manage to kind of make ends meet for some short period of time. And you see this in terms of share, when people start having charge-offs on their shares, it's not usually an all of a sudden sort of thing. What you'll see a lot of times is they have regular deposits from a source. Let's say it's an electronic source. And all of a sudden that electronic source goes away. And they're able to really kind of replace some percentage of their income for 2 or 3 or 4 months from other sources. So you'll see a lot more check or ATM deposits for 2 months. And then you start to see a decline after that. So one of the analyses that we've done with some other clients is go show me people where their deposit mix has changed over the last 60 days compared to before, because then you can start to identify folks that may be at higher risk compared to others. So it's tacking on that same idea of go show me the trend in terms of employers by direct deposit, but going that one step further and saying, go help identify members who are maybe at risk. So even in the near term, they've helped cover their income, but they may not be able to do that indefinitely. So we've got a separate analysis that we do around member retention. This is not a standard dashboard. This is additional configuration for each credit union. But this really started from another credit union came to us with actually a model from another consulting firm that was around essentially customer attrition, customer churn. And they want us to go implement for them. And as the deeper we got into it, the more uncomfortable we got, because it was touted as a model that was 97% accurate. And the problem was that the more we dug into it, the more problems we found. More specifically, is that the model was really keyed off of deposit patterns. And so for the most part, most people tend to be very regular about their deposits for the vast majority of the time, recent history being the exception. But most people, they're the 1st and the 15th, they're every Friday, they're every Tuesday. Whatever that pattern is, it tends to stay the same for fairly long periods of time. And so this model was really good at saying, oh, I was expecting deposit every 30 days. It's now been 60 days. I'm going to kick you out in a report. It says you're likely to attrition. And lo and behold, the credit union calls them up, and yeah, they've attritioned. The problem is that by the time that deposit's moved somewhere else, really it's too late to do something about that relationship. For all intents and purposes, that divorce has already happened. It's gone. That relationship is over. The paperwork just hasn't caught back up yet. So yeah, the model was very, very accurate, but it really didn't do what you really wanted it to do, which was to make a better relationship with your member. And so we did what a lot of other credit unions do. We looked at a lot of what's the product mix, what's the sociological, what's the demographic, what's length of membership, all those things that every credit union does is what's help them put a member into a group of going to stay, not going to stay, right? And just like every credit union, that analysis doesn't get you very far. For every example you get 2 or 3 that will go the other way, so it's just not very predictive. But because we had the transactional records, we kind of were able to ask a different question, and one that was a little bit better to answer. And what was, instead of looking at members who are walking out, who are just getting ready to leave, what about members who stay for 5, 10, 15, 20 years? What do they look like? More importantly, do they have specific transactional patterns that are different? And what we found is that that's true, that members who are going to stay, high retention members, have a different transactional patterns than members who don't. And we can kind of put each member in a group now. Now we have what that is. Say, okay, members who have this what we call the full keys. So that's both type and amounts of these kinds of transactions. And going from that, you can say, okay, this group of members have some of the right things, but not quite as much as we'd like. Next group over, they have at least some transactions, which is better than nothing. And of course, the dreaded no transactional group. And so the name of the game, once you know this, is about moving members while you still can, is to modify their transactional behavior while you can from lower tier retention groups into higher tier retention groups. Say they've got some keys and they've been with the credit union for, say, 5 years, and they're between 18 and 45. There's 1,800 members that we're going to go create a campaign around and go and treat them to change their transactional behavior to a higher retention group. And what we found with customers who already have this deployed is they're getting about a 10% response rate. So out of this 1,800, they're going to get almost 200 members who respond. But what they found is that on top of moving into this higher retention group is they got about a 10x increase in their interchange income. So whatever this group was doing before in terms of interchange income, they get about a 10x increase. And so you get both near-term and long-term benefits from running these campaigns in this specific way. So whatever your cost is to run that campaign, you basically get an immediate ROI basically within the first month. Usually these campaigns are not super expensive. So not only did you get your return immediately, but you also increased their long-term retention. Any questions or thoughts about that?
So is there a way that you flag those, say, those 1,877 members that you selected, so you can look at their account, say, 6 months down the road, see how effective your campaign was?
Right. Yep. And so we've got, so a lot of times they'll take this list and they'll put it out into another drive, whether that's be a flat file, they'll put it into another database, and then they'll check. Essentially, you're just checking how the campaigns went over time. And so they've got a list that they ran in June, they've got a list that they ran in August, and they watch these things both in terms of the interchange income and the transactional behavior and how many accounts or how many products do they open or close during that period of time to see how effective these campaigns are.
So you can take this group and then do another analysis on just that group of people?
Right. Yep. So I'm displaying member number here, but you can do it by, we create a member profile key on the member table, or you can do it by SSN or by whatever makes sense for your environment. Each credit union has something that's a little bit different in terms of what they use for member identification.
Okay.
Okay, so we're down to just like 7 minutes here. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to discuss?
How do we get it?